My girlfriend mocked my low income while secretly using my savings for designer bags. So I emptied our joint account and left, at her with her debts. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I've never been rich, but I've always worked hard. My hands are calloused from years of warehouse work. My back aches most nights, but there's pride in knowing I earn every cent honestly. Chloe, my girlfriend, couldn't be more different. She's a social media marketer, stylish, outgoing, and obsessed with all things aesthetic. When we met, I thought she was out of my league, but she said she loved my simplicity and drive. For the first time in years, it felt like I wasn't just working to survive. I was building something worth keeping. Our financial worlds never quite matched, but I tried not to let it bother me. She'd post photos from brunches with her influencer friends while I packed my lunch in Tupperware. "You're such a hard-working man," she'd say, resting her manicured hand on mine. And for a second, I believed that love could really ignore status. Then one night, she suggested we open a joint account for our future. She said, her tone soft and persuasive. I hesitated. I'd been saving for years, quietly stacking away money for a down payment on a house. But Chloe made it sound like a step forward in our relationship, a sign of commitment. "Don't you trust me?" she asked, her smile gentle but sharp enough to cut. I told her I did. And when she wrapped her arms around me, I pushed aside my unease. I didn't realize it then. But that moment when I linked my financial life to hers was the first quiet betrayal. I thought I was securing our future together. In reality, I had just handed her the key to dismantle mine. At first, Chloe's teasing felt harmless. She'd laugh when I showed up after work, still in my steel-toe boots, saying things like, "You look so rugged. It's kind of cute." But over time, cute became cheap, and rugged turned into unpolished. She'd roll her eyes when I mentioned saving money or mock my old car by calling it my little delivery van. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself she was just joking, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But every word left a bruise that didn't fade. Her lifestyle kept escalating. Weekly brunches, spontaneous shopping trips, and outfits that looked straight out of a luxury ad. I once asked how she could afford it all, and she smiled, saying, "I know how to stretch a dollar." Didn't make sense, but I didn't push it. Instead, I worked harder, more, overtime. Fewer nights off, believing I was investing in us. One evening, while we were having dinner, she looked around our small apartment and said, "You know, it would be nice to live somewhere that doesn't feel so temporary." I tried to joke, "Guess I'll need a second job then," but she didn't laugh. She just sipped her wine and muttered, "Or maybe you just need to think bigger." A week later, she brought up the joint account again, saying we should both contribute more to build a safety net. I agreed, even transferring a few thousand from my savings to show her I was serious. She kissed my cheek and called me her responsible man. I didn't notice her smirk linger a little longer than usual. I told myself this was what building a future looked like. Trust, teamwork, sacrifice. But deep down, a small part of me wondered if Chloe was building something else entirely. The shift was so gradual, I almost didn't notice it. One day, Chloe started handling our bills because, as she said, "You're too tired after work to deal with numbers." I agreed, relieved to have one less thing to think about. But soon, she began commenting on my spending, asking why I bought coffee from the gas station or why I still paid for my old gym membership. "If you just let me manage things, we'd have more control," she'd say, her voice calm but laced with quiet authority. Somehow, the joint account I'd opened for us became something she ruled entirely. I tried to be understanding. She worked in marketing. She was used to organization and planning. But it wasn't long before every decision required her approval. When I wanted to buy new boots for work, she frowned. "You already have a pair. Why waste money?" Yet days later, she'd post a photo wearing a new outfit captioned, "Invest in yourself." The guilt crept in slowly. If I ever questioned her expenses, she'd sigh and say, "I thought you trusted me." "Do you have any idea how much I do for this relationship?" Those words hit hard. I'd remember how she looked when she said we were a team, and I'd back down, convincing myself that love meant compromise. My savings kept shrinking while hers, if she had any, seemed untouched. The irony was cruel. I was working double shifts to keep our account full, while she was treating it like an endless credit line. One night I stared at our balance and realized I didn't even recognize my own money anymore still. I told myself it was fine. She'd promised it was for our future. And I wanted to believe her, because the alternative, she was using me, was a truth I wasn't ready to face. It started as a normal Saturday morning. Chloe was out with friends, and I decided to do some cleaning. While vacuuming the bedroom, I opened her closet to put away some laundry and froze. Inside were 3 designer bags lined neatly on the top shelf. Each one looked brand new, glossy leather, gold accents, tags still hanging. My stomach tightened. I knew exactly how much those brands cost. There was no way she bought them with her salary. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were gifted. Maybe she borrowed them from her influencer friends. But when I checked our joint account on my phone, my heart dropped. There were multiple withdrawals. $800 here. $1,200 there labeled lifestyle expenses. The dates matched perfectly with the time she'd gone shopping with clients. I sat on the bed for what felt like an hour. The sound of the vacuum still running in the background, drowning out the rush in my ears. When she got home, smiling and carrying iced coffee, I confronted her quietly. "Chloe, what are all these charges? And whose bags are those?" She laughed, brushing it off. "Relax, babe. I'll pay it back. I just wanted to treat myself a little. I've been stressed." Her tone was so casual it almost sounded logical. But when I pressed again, her smile vanished. "God, why are you always so dramatic? It's our money. What's yours is mine, remember?" That night I couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in my head like a cruel joke. Our money. I had worked for every cent of that savings, skipping lunches and extra hours while she turned it into handbags and brunches. For the first time, I didn't feel like her boyfriend. I felt like her provider and her fool. A week later, Chloe invited me to dinner with her friends, a group of people I never quite fit in with. They were all polished, loud, and talked in circles about vacations, brand launches, and networking opportunities. I mostly kept quiet, smiling when needed, sipping my drink slowly to mask how uncomfortable I felt. Then one of her friends, a guy named Mason, grinned and said, "Chloe's sugar daddy is really pulling through, huh?" The table burst into laughter. I froze. My chest tightened as every head turned toward me. I tried to smile, assuming it was some weird inside joke. But Chloe just laughed along and added, "Please, Mason. He's more like my budget king than a sugar daddy." She winked at me like it was funny, but it wasn't. It was humiliating. My face burned as they all laughed louder. On the way home, I stayed quiet, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. When we got inside, I finally asked, "What was that? Why would you say that about me?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, are you seriously mad?" It was a joke. You need to stop being so sensitive. People laugh because they like you. Learn to take it. I stared at her, this woman who claimed to love me, and realized I didn't recognize her anymore. She looked more like a stranger wearing someone I used to trust. That night, she fell asleep, easily. I didn't. I lay awake replaying her words, her laughter. That smug grin when she saw me shrink in front of her friends. Something inside me cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet snap, the kind that never fully heals. For the first time, I wasn't angry at her. I was angry at myself for letting it get this far. A few weeks after that dinner, I got a letter from a bank I'd never used. It said payment overdue $1,642 balance. I assumed it was a mistake. But then another letter came from a different bank, and another. Each had my name on it, but cards I'd never opened. My chest went cold. I called one of the banks, explained there had to be some error, and the woman on the line said, "Sir, these cards were registered to your home address and email. Purchases include online boutiques, luxury brands, and beauty stores." I knew instantly. Chloe, when she came home that night, I showed her the letters. Her reaction wasn't fear, it was irritation. "You went through my mail?" she snapped, as if I was the problem. When I pressed her, she finally admitted it. "Okay, Yes. I used your name, but I was going to pay them off. I just wanted to build my credit score and get some things I deserved. You don't get it. Image matters in my job. I was speechless. She had used my identity, my trust, and then tried to justify it as career maintenance. I told her this was fraud, illegal, but she just burst into tears, collapsing on the couch, sobbing dramatically. I only did it because I wanted to impress you. I wanted us to look like a real power couple. Somehow, those words worked. I found myself comforting her, the same woman who'd humiliated me and used my name to build her fantasy. I told myself she'd pay it back, that she just made a mistake. But deep down, I knew this wasn't love anymore. It was control, manipulation, and emotional debt disguised as romance. And I was still too blinded by the idea of us to see I was already halfway destroyed. After the credit card fiasco, things didn't get better, they got quieter. That dangerous kind of silence that sits heavy between two people pretending everything's fine. Chloe went back to her routines, photo shoots, brunches, posting soft life videos online with captions like, "Know your worth," while I was the one drowning in bills, double shifts, and sleepless nights. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Half expecting another late payment notice, I started noticing how little she seemed to care. I'd come home exhausted, sweat-soaked from a 12-hour shift, and she'd be lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone, barely looking up. "You work too much," she'd say. "It's killing your vibe." I'd laugh bitterly and say, "Someone has to pay for all this." But she'd roll her eyes and reply, "You always make me sound like a villain." The truth was, I was burning out, emotionally, physically, financially. My savings were gone, my energy drained, and my barely hanging on. I couldn't remember the last time she said thank you, the last time we shared a real conversation that didn't revolve around her wants. Every time I brought up my stress, she'd guilt-trip me. "You're not being supportive," she'd say. "I'm doing all this for us." But us didn't feel like a partnership anymore. It felt like a cage I'd willingly stepped into. I'd wake up every morning with a pit in my stomach, wondering what new mess I'd have to clean up, what new lie I'd have to swallow. I kept telling myself love was supposed to be hard work, but this wasn't hard work. This was slow destruction disguised as loyalty, and I didn't know it yet. But my breaking point was coming fast in this time. It wouldn't be quiet. It happened on a random Wednesday night, one of those evenings where you're too tired to think. I was eating leftovers alone when my coworker texted me a link. "Dude, is this you?" I opened it and felt my stomach drop. It was a TikTok, Chloe's TikTok, showing clips of our apartment, my old car, and even a photo of me in my work uniform. The caption read, "Dating a broke guy who funds your lifestyle." It had thousands of views, hundreds of comments, people laughing, calling me Mr. Minimum Wage, asking why she hadn't dumped me yet. My hands shook as I scrolled. She'd turned my sacrifices into a punchline, my entire life reduced to content. When she came home that night, humming and scrolling through her phone, I was sitting on the couch waiting. "Why would you post that?" I asked quietly. She blinked, pretending confusion. "What are you talking about?" I showed her the video, and she just shrugged. "Babe, it's just a joke. Everyone exaggerates online. Relax, relax." My voice cracked. "You made me a meme, Chloe," she scoffed. "Oh, please. You're acting like I ruined your life. People post worse things every day." That was the moment something inside me broke completely. I wasn't angry anymore. I was empty. The woman I'd loved for years didn't just disrespect me in private. She humiliated me in front of the entire internet. I went to bed that night, staring at the ceiling, realizing I had nothing left. Not love, not trust, not even dignity. For the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to hit rock bottom. It wasn't about losing money. It was about losing yourself, trying to prove your worth to someone who never valued it in the first place. After that video, something in me shifted quietly, but permanently. I stopped arguing. I stopped reacting. I became still, observant, calculating. Chloe thought my silence meant surrender. In reality, it was the calm before the storm. I started documenting everything, every transaction, every charge, every screenshot of her messages bragging about her brand deals that didn't exist. I wasn't planning an outburst. I was planning an exit. One evening, while she was out networking, I logged into our joint account from my laptop. My heart pounded as I scrolled through the history: boutique payments, luxury subscriptions, and random PayPal transfers to usernames I didn't recognize. When I cross-checked them, I realized she'd been buying from resale apps, flipping designer items and pocketing the profits under fake accounts. She wasn't just reckless, she was running a personal scam off my income. I gathered evidence, printouts, photos, even a copy of the fraudulent credit card applications in her handwriting. The deeper I dug, the more I found, and the more I realized how naive I'd been. She hadn't stumbled into greed. She'd built her entire image on it, and I was her silent investor. The next morning, I visited my bank in person. The manager was sympathetic, apparently. I wasn't the first person to deal with this kind of manipulation. He helped me freeze the joint account, flagged the suspicious activity, and walked me through reclaiming ownership of my finances. He even suggested a legal route for the identity fraud. By the time I left the bank, the fog in my head had lifted. For months, I'd been chasing Chloe's approval, hoping love would change her. But love doesn't fix exploitation. Awareness does. And now, I had all the awareness I needed. The revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be quiet, deliberate, devastatingly permanent. I woke up the next morning with a calmness I hadn't felt in months. No anger, no heartbreak. Just focus. While Chloe slept in beside me, I quietly got dressed, brewed my coffee, and checked the joint account one last time. There it was, her paycheck from her latest collaboration, freshly deposited overnight. Perfect timing. I moved every single cent, including what was left of my savings, into my personal account. Then, I called the bank and permanently closed the joint one. Before I left for work, I placed a note on the kitchen counter. It wasn't dramatic. No paragraphs or explanations. Just 10 words. You spent my trust. Now you can pay your own bills. That evening, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Missed calls. Dozens of texts. Then the messages turned frantic. Why isn't the card working? Did you touch the account? This isn't funny. I have payments due. By the time I got home, Chloe was pacing the living room like a cornered animal. Where's the money, Liam? She screamed. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, with the person who earned it. She froze, the realization washing over her. Her confident posture collapsed. She tried to guilt me, cried, begged, promised to change, but I'd heard it all before. This time, there was no empathy left to manipulate. I walked past her, picked up my packed duffel bag and said, "You wanted independence, Chloe? Now you have it." I left without slamming the door, without yelling, just the soft click of finality. The kind of silence that says it's over by the next morning. She'd posted a crying selfie captioned, "People always leave when you need them most." But I didn't care anymore. For once, I wasn't the punchline. I was the ending she never saw coming. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. Within a week, Chloe's picture-perfect world started to collapse. And this time, she had no one to clean up the mess. Her credit cards were maxed out. Collectors started calling, and she couldn't access a dime from the joint account. I watched from a distance as her online life began to unravel. The same followers who once praised her soft life started noticing inconsistencies. Someone even dug up screenshots from her viral video, the one mocking me, and leaked the truth in the comments. Wait, wasn't this the guy paying all her bills? She used his savings for designer bags. She's not independent. She's a scammer. Her comments section turned into a battlefield. She tried to do damage control, posting teary videos about being betrayed by someone I loved. Her brand deals disappeared overnight. Friends she used to brag with stopped returning her calls. Even Mason, her loudest cheerleader, unfollowed her. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet. I didn't post, didn't defend myself, didn't celebrate. I let her lies decay under their own weight. My revenge wasn't loud, it was complete silence. I used the evidence I'd gathered to clear my name with the banks, and within weeks, Every fraudulent card was closed, every debt reversed. The system that once buried me now worked in my favor because I had proof. Cold, undeniable proof. One afternoon, Chloe showed up outside my job. Her makeup was streaked, her voice shaky. "Liam, please." I lost everything. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction. Just closure. "You didn't lose everything," I said quietly. "You just lost control." Then I walked away, leaving her standing in the parking lot the same way she once left me drowning in shame. In the weeks that followed, the silence felt strange, almost too peaceful. For months, my life had been noise, arguments, guilt trips, and late-night anxiety spirals. Now, it was just quiet. I started sleeping again. I went to the gym after work instead of rushing home to fix someone else's chaos. Slowly, I began feeling like a person again, not a wallet, not a prop in someone else's fantasy, but myself. I moved into a smaller apartment, one I could actually afford. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I decorated it with simple things: a thrifted couch, a coffee maker I loved, and photos of my family that I'd once packed away because Chloe said they looked cheap. Every corner of that place reminded me of independence, of peace that didn't have to be purchased. Sometimes, I'd still see her online trying to rebuild her image, posting motivational quotes about healing and letting go of toxic people. I didn't feel anger anymore, just pity, because I finally understood something: you can't teach integrity to someone who thrives on illusion. One night, as I sat on my balcony watching the city lights, I thought about how everything had started. One small request for a joint account, one careless decision born out of love and trust. It cost me thousands, but it taught me a lesson worth far more. Peace is priceless, and trust is sacred. I ended up closing all my old accounts and starting new ones. Clean slate, clean conscience. When people ask about Chloe now, I just smile and say, she taught me how expensive love can get when it's one-sided. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it not bitterly, but with gratitude. Because sometimes losing someone like her is exactly how you find yourself again.